Hey, what's up everyone? My name's Evan here. Welcome back to a brand new video on the channel. Today, I'll be giving you guys my spoiler review for Spider-Man No Way Home. Last night, I saw the movie in theaters, and it was a blast. I loved the movie so much, and wow. It was so emotional, it was dark, it was funny, and my goodness, it was just so good in my opinion. As I mentioned before, this is my spoiler review for Spider-Man No Way Home, so if you haven't seen the movie, click away now. Usually I'll be doing these reviews on my second channel, and I'll probably start doing those on my second channel as well, but I felt like I should have done this on my main channel, so that's what I did. If you guys are new, make sure to subscribe and to hit the bell, and also subscribe to my second channel because I'll be doing a couple of reviews in January. Probably one for Cobra Kai Season 4, and Book of Boba Fett most likely in February. I don't know when that Season 1's going to end. But I will probably do a Morbius movie review as well if I do see that movie. Besides that, make sure to subscribe to this channel, my second channel, and like this video as well. If you've seen the movie already, comment below what do you rate it out of 10. Be careful for spoilers in the comments if you haven't seen it yet. If you haven't seen it yet, I do suggest you click away from the video. Anyways, guys, let's get started with this review. Alright, so from beginning to end, this was a blast. It was just a ride, man. Wow. It was such an amazing movie. I will talk about spoilers, so if you haven't clicked away already, you should just do it now. But I'm going to talk about the spoilers now. Pretty much the first 10 minutes of the film, you see Peter Parker. He's running away from all, the news and everything like that with MJ. Kind of like how the trailers were and everything. You see him go home and everything. They need a lawyer because they all get, questioned and everything like that. And Daredevil, a.k.a. Charlie Cox, is the lawyer in Spider-Man No Way Home. He ends up catching a rock that was thrown through the window by someone, a Mysterio supporter, and he catches it, and when Peter asks, I don't know what Peter asks, he asks something, how'd you do that? He just says he's a really good lawyer. And, after that, Peter and Aunt May needed to go somewhere else, so they moved into Happy's apartment. I didn't mention this before, but Aunt May and Happy ended up breaking up, so they weren't together in the beginning of the film at all, which is kind of weird. I didn't even know they were dating, at first, I didn't know they're dating, and this takes place right after Far From Home, so they must have been dating the entire time. I was clueless. I guess I didn't even notice, but yeah, they were dating, and I didn't know. Eventually, you see, Peter, MJ, Ned, wanting to apply to college and everything, and they get denied. He has to go meet with one of the MIT people, to try to consider them, or at least consider Ned and MJ, because they weren't part of Peter's mess. And this is where we see the entrance of Doc Ock and everything. They end up fighting. And then after that, if you remember the scene from the trailer where Doc Ock says, "You're not Peter Parker," Peter actually ends up controlling Doc Ock's arms because of the nanotech and everything like that, which I think is really cool. And at the end of the fight, obviously Doc Ock is still evil. His arms are being controlled by Peter. And Green Goblin, or Norman Osborn, I should say, is seen at the end of it. Basically, Doc Ock gets transported to its cell. We get the introduction of Lizard as well. Then we ended up seeing Spider-Man's new suit, Electro and Sandman. I'm going to be honest, Jamie Foxx's performance is probably one of the best in this film. I think he did such an amazing job with Electro in this film. The fact they changed Electro to be so much better in this film, I really started liking the villain again. And I feel like Jamie Foxx did an amazing job with this villain. Props to you, man. And honestly, props to Disney and everything for bringing Electro back. I think that was really cool to do. But we do see the introduction of Sandman, who starts out being good again, but he ends up going more evil to neutral towards the middle of the movie, like everyone else when all the villains broke free from the apartment, which I'll get to that in a second. But yeah, the villains did break out of the apartments because they ended up bringing them all to the apartment. But Norman Osborn was also at feast with Aunt May. He does have that side ability where he's evil one day, he's good the other day, and everything like that. They bring him to the prison. They all trap the villains, all 5 of them. Then you have the Tom Holland and Doctor Strange fight. Strange gets stuck at the cannon, the Grand Cannon, and they set the villains free into Happy Hogan's apartment building. Inside the apartment, you could see all the 5 villains, and pretty much Tom, or Peter, starts to try and help the villains out, make sure they start turning good again and everything like that. It starts going badly with Green Goblin as the Goblin kind of returns and everything like that. I think Tom has his spider sense, and yeah, that happens in the trailer when you saw Electro shoot at Doc Ock. Doc Ock didn't die. He obviously ended up escaping right away after that, and all the villains ended up escaping. I'm gonna skip a little bit of the film, but during one of the scenes... Actually, no, I'm not even skipping the film by this point, actually, when I'm going up to this. But unfortunately, Green Goblin kills Aunt May. And this was a big spoiler in the movie. It was very emotional just to see Aunt May go and everything. And Happy ended up getting arrested, what it seemed like. But at the end of the movie, we see Happy, which I'll get to that in a second. Peter obviously just wants to get revenge, but Peter's just super depressed and everything like that. And I feel super bad for him, to be honest. Like, I feel bad for Peter for, like, you know, losing Aunt May and everything like that. And it's really heartbreaking. The scene after, though, is a big spoiler, and it's a good one. We see Ned and MJ, you know, talking, and Ned says, "I wish we could just see Peter." A portal, almost like tiny bits, opens up. He says it again, and the portal opens up to see Spider-Man. Not Tom Holland's Spider-Man, but instead Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man. Yes, Andrew Garfield is in this movie, as well as Tobey Maguire. We see Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man first, and then when he tries to do it again until he eventually gets the real Peter Parker, or in this case, Tobey Maguire comes through the next portal, and Tobey mentions that when he came into your world, he's been trying to look for your friend ever since. So he does know about MJ, he does know about Ned, and he does know about Tom. Now, how does he know this? At first, I was confused, but I ended up realizing that, you know, they got transported to, you know, Tom Holland's universe. So they got transported to Tom's universe, and they see Spider-Man on the news, so he's basically been looking for him. I'm assuming the same goes for Andrew Garfield as well. Like what I mean, Andrew Garfield sees it on the news and has been looking for him as well. Next, we do see Tom, you know, Ned and MJ go to a place that he's been, and then obviously Tobey and Andrew both follow them as well. And probably the most emotional part of the film is that scene. Tobey talks about Uncle Ben, Andrew talks about Gwen, and Tom talks about Aunt May. Earlier, before Aunt May died, Aunt May did tell Tom, "With great power comes great responsibility." Tobey does mention that he said it before, and Andrew does say that Uncle Ben has said this to them as well. And I thought it was really cool that they mentioned that, and it was part of the leaks, I think, too, that was going to be mentioned. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem like an Uncle Ben was mentioned in the MCU, so either an Uncle Ben was never made in the MCU, or maybe something happened with Uncle Ben and Aunt May never mentioned him to Tom. Who knows? I don't really know, to be honest, but it doesn't seem like an Uncle Ben is in the MCU, unfortunately, but I thought it was like a really cool scene that they included in there. Basically, next they go to the labs and everything. I might have skipped something. I don't think I did. They go to a lab, work on their web shooters. They find out about Tobey, you know, not having to use web shooter. He just has like web fluid or web blood, whatever it's called. And later on, they go to the Statue of Liberty, where pretty much all the villains are going to be. So they have talks about villains, and they have the web talks. They have the funny scene where Andrew helps Tobey with his back, you know, the scene in, I think, Spider-Man 2 or 3. I forgot which one. I think 2, where, you know, Tobey has the back problem. I thought it was really funny how they did that as well. Eventually, they do get the devices, you know, to make the villains all better. And they have Electros, they had Sandmans, and they had Lizards, which were all there. I think they had Goblins as well. And basically, all the villains turn good except Green Goblin. And Green Goblin comes in at the end as evil again. Pretty much, she puts a pumpkin bomb in the cube. It explodes. Doctor Strange has to deal with the whole multiverse thing again. And the whole scene where MJ falls and Peter has to catch her happens. But the good news about this is that Tom Holland didn't catch her, as Green Goblin stops him, and said Andrew Garfield helps her. And pretty much it's like a redemption for Gwen Stacy, I'm pretty sure, is what that would have meant. And I thought it was really cool that they did that. I mean, awesome. You know how they did that? Thank God. I thought it was really cool that they did that. And at the end, Tom and Goblin fight, and I really like how this scene went. I think everything about the scene is amazing. Tom is literally beating up Goblin. He's taking out all of his anger about Aunt May's death onto him, and he almost kills Goblin for it. Tobey stops him and doesn't kill Goblin. Tobey does get stabbed by Green Goblin, but Tobey's fine. I mean, I'm really happy. Thank God Toby's fine. He doesn't die, so don't worry about it. He's fine, and Green Goblin turns good, and that's how everything collides. At the end, everyone's starting to come through to their universes, which was the villains. One of the villains I saw there was Kraven the Hunter, Rhino's comic look, and I'm pretty sure Scorpion was also one of them. Those are the main three I found out there. If I can find a different video and see all the other villains and everything explaining that, I will, and probably mention it some other day. I don't know when. Peter does tell Doctor Strange to do the spell where everyone forgets he's Spider-Man and forgets who Peter Parker is, which I know my friend said that it was kind of debunks Homecoming's, post-credit scene, but it actually doesn't, realizing it now, because they don't like Spider-Man. They don't like the Spider-Man. So they're going to still go after Spider-Man, but they're not going to know his identity. And I'm referring to, obviously, Vulture, Scorpion. I know the Morbius film is supposed to apparently have Vulture in it, and I would assume that prison escape happens with them. And they're also making the Kraven the Hunter solo film. They do mention Rhino and Black Cat as well in the Daily Bugle newspaper, so if you don't know what I'm referring to, Sony's apparently supposed to be making their own Sinister Six group being led by the Vulture, which I think is really cool, which is why they didn't do a Sinister Six and No Way Home, which leads me to my next point. The only issue I didn't have in this movie is that they did a Sinister 5 and not a Sinister 6. I would have really liked if they actually brought Venom into the MCU and made it worth it. If you remember the Let There Be Carnage end credit scene, Venom got transported into the MCU, saw Spider-Man on the TV screen. That same scene where Venom came into the MCU is probably when the whole, Doctor Strange brings in all the villains and stuff. Or not Doctor Strange brings in the villains. The spell goes wrong and some of the villains slip through and come into Tom's universe. That's pretty much how it would work. And then the end credit scene, of course, was Venom and Eddie going back to their universe and leaving behind a very small alien symbiote. And the second one was basically a teaser trailer for Doctor Strange, The Multiverse of Madness. The movie, I feel like it's a solid 9.8 out of 10, or maybe even a 10 out of 10. I really enjoyed this film, and it was such a blast. But guys, that's going to do it for this Spider-Man No Way Home review. I hope you guys ended up enjoying it. If you guys are new, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell as well. I'll be doing some more movie and TV show reviews on my second channel, but I will probably post some Spider-Man content here. Maybe mainly on Fortnite for a bit, but I don't know. But anyways, guys, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Have an amazing day. God bless. See you guys next time. Goodbye.